This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Public Works meeting for May 15th, 2024. I will make a motion to open this evening's meeting.
Second.
Thomas Wilkesberry.
Aye.
Steve Whitman.
Yes.
Leah Strode.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item number 1 on our agenda is public speak. If anybody from the public that is joining us would like to speak on anything that's not on our agenda, now is your time to address the board.
Not on the agenda. Okay.
Not on the agenda.
Okay, I'll wait for the agenda.
All right, if we have no comment on public speak, I'll move on to item number 2. We're not expecting the mayor to join us. Okay, then we'll move on from mayor speak. Item number 3 is approval of the May 1st, 2024 meeting minutes. Was everyone able to review what Michelle prepared and sent out?
Yes.
Any
Second time.
issues with them as prepared?
No.
Myself included. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as prepared.
Second.
Thomas Wilkesberry.
Yes.
Steve Whitman.
Yes.
Leah Strode.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
All right, item number 4 on the agenda is the Main Street design. We've been keeping this on the agenda as another avenue to collect feedback on the design process that's ongoing. Any input on that, Craig? I saw we
No, we finished removing the temporary setup Monday night.
okay.
And a couple of comments kind of started to really slow down. I did actually receive 2 today. And I sent them along to the property address, and that's kind of where it's at. We're meeting with Bowman in a couple of weeks to discuss whatever else comes in for comments and kind of the next steps for the project. We received some new information from Easthampton Savings Bank earlier this week that's significantly different from other information we had received from them, so we need to kind of have some bigger conversations with the bank about their input was geared more towards the north side, basically from the crossing at Campus Lane towards Pleasant Street.
Okay.
So that wasn't where we set up the attack improvements for that. So.
I will. Any questions for the board on that, or any discussion on?
Yes.
Okay.
So I noticed that the reduced ped crossing was left.
We did leave that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the paint we put down there, the delineators that are out there, and the just additional signage, I think it's doing a great job in turning up that crossing and making it safer in the meantime. So we were comfortable with leaving that
Yeah.
the way it is.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I'd like to just note that I walk there all the time, and it feels a lot safer now. A lot more comfortable crossing. You're not crossing 4 lanes of traffic. Yeah, appreciate you leaving it up.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah.
All right, if, this is an item that everyone is joining us for. I'll turn it over to you. If you could just state your name and if you'd like me to call on you, or if you'd like to just self-select who would like to speak individually.
I can go first.
Sure.
Sean Abbott, I live on Summer Street. I'm a little bit sad it's actually come down because it's been a big quality of life improvement for us. I work from home and my office actually can both see and hear Main Street, and the narrowing of everything and slowing everybody down has actually reduced the noise coming off and hitting my house by a significant margin, which is fantastic. Like the committee member here, I cross that street a lot, and that crosswalk, thank you for leaving that up, because that is, again, it's a huge quality of life improvement. It's just, it makes it from, basically going all the way around and going to the crosswalk and like waiting for the light and everything else to being a safe, comfortable place. I was actually amazed by how much the cars were paying attention there, even sort of like with the extra narrowing. It just like really brought everybody's attention right there for the pedestrians, and it was just like night and day difference. Also, the sort of daylighting that happened on the corner to turn onto Campus Lane was another big advantage. So we were able to cross that a lot more easily. And even on Campus Lane, with having more cars parked there, cars usually zoom down that at insane speeds, especially if they're going to either Big E's or coming off Union to go around the stoplight. They're, hitting that corner at 35 miles an hour so that they can make that cutoff faster, and they've slowed down a lot. So that's been a big quality of life improvement. And I know, I've heard some folks complaining that there weren't a lot more bikers or something with the bike lanes, but the bike lanes weren't connected to anything, so that was sort of expected.
They were
with
conceptual.
so it was expected with the tactical urbanism, so I'm not worried about that at all, and I think that would be great. And the only thing that I think we still would mind seeing would be updating or removing the parking signs on Campus Lane, because a lot of folks were very surprised that they could park on campus, nobody had known that, and they were sort of the signs were confusing, I think. So yeah, like I said, I'm sad that it's gone. It was a fantastic quality of life improvement for us.
Well, it's not necessarily
that live
gone,
right
I
there.
mean, parts of
Right.
it could be built into the final design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great experience for us. We super appreciated it, and I cannot tell you how much I'm glad we left that crosswalk. That was
That's
the
good.
biggest part of it. So.
Thank you for your input.
Did you email the Main Street 2024 at easthamptonma.gov address?
Not recently.
Okay, if you could, that would be great.
Yeah.
We'll take what you said and we'll get it to the proper people, but if you are able to do that, it'll get to
What's the address again?
Main Street spelled out,
Mhm.
2024
Yep.
at easthamptonma.gov.
Got it.
Is that different than the survey that was on the QR codes on the sidewalk there?
No,
Okay.
that'll get to the same people.
Okay.
Is that Sean with a
SEAN.
SEA?
I guess I'll go. Also here in support of that, my name is Enrico, Enrico. Unfortunately, unlike Sean, I do not live right on top of the project because I did absolutely love that. I'm out on Parsons Street near the intersection with Ferry, which is another street that has exactly the same problem of 40-mile-an-hour traffic and crosswalks that are very dangerous to use. But the improvement on Main Street has pretty much all the same notes that Sean had to say, absolutely a massive improvement to quality of life walking, biking through that area. And of course, as we saw, not a huge change in traffic, cutting down the speeds and cutting down the number of lanes, didn't cause any huge ripple problems with traffic elsewhere. And everything still flowed very well. And as far as I could tell, parking still worked out. I know some people were confused about where they were supposed to park when they were used to parking there. And I agree that, in a permanent design, more signage to clarify some of the side streets and stuff would be great. But huge improvement on that. The prototype of what to do with the width also was really great. The fact that the bike lanes weren't just added, but were large, fully delineated, fully separated from the parallel parking. Was made that while the bike lanes were obviously a prototype and didn't really connect to anything and had a curb on the end, that spacing of the street was great. And I was also on the team of people who did the painting
Really great.
along the side there. And obviously that highlighted just the sheer amount of extra sidewalk and additional planting or whatever space that could be reclaimed along there, as well as just how much you can open up that street by reducing the lane width and bringing that down. Otherwise just big support for that. I'm really excited to see what the final designs look like, and I hope that we can incorporate a lot of, especially just the dimensions of how much that curb to curb width on the crosswalk and everything was reduced into that final design, both for the pilot section as well as into the triangular rotary area, as well as connecting to the Union Street project, et cetera. And also just a really good prototype for other things I'd love to see elsewhere in the city. As I say, somewhere like where I am in Parsons, we really need to improve those crosswalks, and the change that has happened on that Main Street one is really, I think, indicative of what is possible with that, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Turkanian, I live over on Ward. I've walked through the redesign, but mainly I've been driving through it. I'd say that the parallel parking feels a lot safer to come out of. The angle parking, I always felt like I was taking my life into my hands because I can't see around the other cars. So that was really nice. I feel like the crosswalk at campus, when you're headed, I guess, east towards the rotary. It's still kind of hard to see people who are headed north. And I don't know if like maybe it can be like moved to the other side of Campus Lane or like widened, or like that last spot can be put on the other side or something. Just like walking there, I just feel like I'm stepping out into traffic, and driving through there, like I'm trying to be aware of people, but like I also can't see them until they're, you know, in conflict with my car, which is unhappy for everybody. And then kind of coming the other way, there are the two handicap spots and the non-handicap spot. I felt like that third spot, the non-handicap spot, really kind of made like the turn into the right-hand lane a little awkward. I'm sure I'd get used to it or something, but and then just like the other thing, the rotary, I feel like we did it, or you all did a good job with kind of striping it coming into the
Yeah,
center
we left
now.
all the painting we did on north side there, we left
But
it all.
continuing some of the like lane demarcations on all three sides, and I answered the QR code survey, and I talked about like, you know, maybe having like a yield sign there, so it's clear that like the people who have to queue up to get around the rotary should have the right of way, or do have the right of way, maybe, or they don't. I don't know. Wasn't clear to me. But yeah, like you look at some of the like newer round rotaries where like you do have like the clearly marked lanes with the arrows and all that stuff. I'd love to see that on that triangle that I'm gonna continue to call rotary, because that's what it does. That's
Well, as
kind
we
of
get
my-
closer to having a 25% design, there could be some significant changes to how traffic flows around there
Yeah, that was kind of outside the envelope of
of
the
the tactical
of the
urbanism.
prototype pilot block, really, so.
And I had a pair of questions.
Yeah.
First was on timeline. I understand you're not at 100%
No,
design.
not even close, yeah.
Oh, this was,
If things went reasonably well, when would you look at like actually implementing
2028.
2028? Okay.
yeah, and for the record, this isn't a city project,
Well, it'll be a tip project, so
Right.
2028 is
but there'll be,
probably ambitious.
the
But
design process will be similar to Union Street,
Exactly.
where there's public comment periods, there's design periods, there's input periods, so
Good.
it'll be similar model to how we did Union Street over the last.
Union Street, the discussions around Union Street starting, the redesign, everything started in around 2015. It could be
Things
significantly
take
longer,
time,
but
I
we're on
understand.
schedule for construction of the transportation improvement program for 2028.
Then the second question was, on the south side of Main Street, there's parallel parking in the bike lanes, and then a big swath of kind of like painted asphalt. Is the idea that like the curb was gonna be extended to there, or it was gonna remain painted? Like, is that gonna be like seating for restaurants, or like a bigger sidewalk?
I'd have to see exactly what you're in front of Shop Row, like by Silver Spoon and those.
Other side of the street.
So,
Bike gallery.
oh, we had
so-
we painted the
Galaxy.
mural there and
Yeah.
where the parking was. Yeah, it could be, I mean, it a lot really remains to be seen with how we can, we take all the comments and ideas into consideration and then try to tie it all into a buildable project,
I think it would be cool to have that as like seating for, I guess Galaxy's the only restaurant there, but for whatever else.
Open space,
Library
public open
space,
space, yeah.
yeah.
Or-
Sure.
Or some like, green space, some plants or something to just make it less of a giant patch of asphalt.
Yeah. Yeah, but those were left as asphalt, obviously, because in this
Yeah.
phase, they were just being painted and then returned to service after so their final design could be any number of things. For every comment of how much everyone enjoyed it being narrowed, there were comments that said they didn't like the reduced width, so that all gets incorporated into the
I mean,
process.
as a driver, I didn't find it any more or less burdensome with the reduced width. As a pedestrian and what's that bike lane next to stuff, as a cyclist, I think that it'll.
Understood.
Just a quick question on the 2028, is that a intended project completion or break ground?
Start,
Okay.
construction start in 2028.
Yes.
Hi, so I'm Alexis Hosea Abbott. I'm on the Manhan Rail Trail Committee. I also happen to be the Mass Bike rep for PVPC and go to Joint Transportation Committee meetings. And I also happen to work for Mass Bike. That being said, I had because of all the change up at City Hall, I was getting asked questions on the regional level that I couldn't answer because there seems to be some communication disconnect between the Manhan Rail Trail Committee and the Union Street project. And I think maybe the Manhan doesn't want to know about bike infrastructure in other parts of the city, but it would be really nice if there was just more cross, like I didn't even know when the painting was happening, and maybe I didn't sign up for the right thing. Again, both Dan and Jeff leaving at the same time, but I would like to be a little bit more in the loop, and I don't know how to do that.
The planning department handled most of the public outreach for the effort, so. Watch their webpage, see what gets posted. There's a couple different ways you can subscribe to email lists that the planning department puts together.
And I did fill out the survey. I agree with all of their also comments, like coming off of Summer Street. We live on Summer Street, so turning left, people are flying out of the rotary to kind of accelerate down Pleasant Street. So I think this helped reduce the amount of acceleration out of the rotary. Again, agree with there's better parking now on College Street. And it's reducing the amount people are flying down that and trying to cut campus lane, and trying to avoid the roundabout. And yeah, I agree with everything everyone else said. I also drive the roundabout all the time, and the turning is a lot better now because I can actually complete the turn without pausing for people coming towards me from the light. But yeah, I would like there to be a little better, I wish the Manhan Rail Trail Committee also did bike ped infrastructure, but it doesn't. That's my goal for the committee. I don't know how many years it will take me to get there or if I'll ever succeed. But that being said, I am also essentially your rep to PVPC. So if anyone would like to talk to me about things, I can help relay it to PVPC.
Understood. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Stratton. I'm going to be the odd one out because I actually live up in Northampton off of Burt's Pit Road. But a week after I committed to buying there, my sister's family committed to buying a place on Park Street. So I'm back and forth constantly, and Loudville, Glendale, et cetera. Those are my life. When I first moved to the area 4 years ago, I did not have a car. I didn't even have a bike. My transport was a giant pedal unicycle. And I knew about the rail trail. I'd done it once on a visit. That was great. But what I quickly learned was that the true strength of cycling in the area is not the rail trail, it's the roads. The rail trail is just an introduction, but most of our roads are great. I mean, yes, there are a handful of exceptions. Obviously, we don't bike on 91. Holyoke Street and Mountain Street are pretty bad. East Street sometimes. And the part of Route 10 just north of this project area, not the project area, but the next part north is a real issue because it's fast and it's narrow. And one of the things that came up in comments a lot is people like, why do we need a bike lane? Why don't people just use the rail trail? Well, where does the rail trail not go? It doesn't go to most people's homes, businesses, schools, et cetera. And particularly, if you're trying to do anything on Route 10 between the project area and the Northampton line, you've got a busy road with no shoulders. So that's River Valley, that's anything at the Tasty Top development, that's the post office, that's the hardware store. And if affordable housing happens up at the town farm site, that's the main access from there into town too. That is busy, that is narrow. You get through that on the north end, you get escape to the trail at O'Neill Street, or a shoulder resumes at the Northampton line.
So just so you're aware, that section of Northampton Street from West Street to the Northampton line is not under the city's control.
I understand.
And it's not on our agenda.
No, I understand. The reason I'm raising it is that the most common reason someone would actually be biking through the project area is that they're going to or coming from something there. Otherwise, they would be on a secondary street or they would be on the rail trail already. But most of the bike trips that go through there also are needing to transit that part of Route 10. And once you come up that hill on Route 10 to the quasi-rotary, it's open, it's relaxed, it's spacious. That almost second lane that gives access to the parking means that you have a huge amount of space on each side of you. You can see the traffic on your left, you can see anybody backing out of the parking on the right. And if we look at where incidents are actually happening, we don't have to guess because MassDOT tracks them in the impact database. The solitary crash in the project area was a hook turn onto Campus Lane. It's the only thing that's happened there involving a bike. And that's a very classic kind of crash. I mean, a person on a bike is going straight ahead, a driver who doesn't see them turns in front of them. And the further we have bikes away from the traffic lane, the more common that becomes. So I am not at all in favor of hiding bikes behind parked cars here. I think that actually increases the likelihood of collisions. And it also adds a complication to the crosswalk because the crosswalk is now a double threat. First, you have a fairly hidden bike route, which with the state planning to subsidize e-bikes as car replacement, we can expect to get faster and faster. And then you have the traffic lane versus in the current configuration, bikes should be in that sort of quasi-right lane and fairly visible with the rest of the traffic. If we look more generally, some people will cite a federal stat about the number of crashes that occur apart from incidents, but that's only fatal crashes. If we look at the state's data for Easthampton fortunately has never had a recorded bicycle fatality as long as the state's been tracking, which goes back to before 2000. But 4 of the 4 in Northampton were intersection collisions. We have to look all around the Pioneer Valley to find a solitary high-speed road overtaking crash fatality up in Deerfield. In Easthampton, in the last 4 years, 8 of the 10 crashes have been intersections. The 2 that were not were on Holyoke Street, were overtaking crashes, fortunately non-fatal. But again, that's the kind of area that really is an issue. This project is the sort of area that works fine for someone who can go most places in Easthampton. So if we set the standard that a relatively relaxed, spacious area like this needs to be reworked before it's bikeable, then we've basically said that 90% of the city is unreachable by bike. Unless you happen to be on the rail trail or one in a handful of places like this, you can't go there by bike. But that's not true. The reality is we go there all the time by bike. I mean, this is a wonderful area to bike in. It's very popular, and the rail trail is just the introduction. The real strength is the roads. So yes, we need traffic calming, but we shouldn't have traffic calming at the expense of squeezing bikes into traffic or on a sidewalk-like route that's hidden from traffic. We need mutual understanding between drivers and cyclists. When we look at the crashes on the rail trail, a lot of them are at crosswalks. We need an awareness that under the laws of Massachusetts and most states in the country, bicycles do not have a right-of-way at crosswalks. Only dismounted pedestrians do. Connecticut is different, but I would argue they made a mistake in doing that because bikes don't move the way pedestrians do, and particularly with e-bikes, we get faster and faster. So, I strongly believe in bicycle transit, but I think that we need bikes to be seen as a component of traffic and a very normal, expected, everyday component. I mean, when someone sees someone on a bike, I want them to I wish I could be doing that right now. Not, why did they think they should ride on this road? And there are a few places in town that are like that right now that we need more width for their speed and busyness, but this is not an area that was a problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your input. Like Greg said, we'll forward all our meeting minutes to the appropriate, but if you want your direct response, that email provided is the point that the consultant is collecting all data that will be aggregated.
It's just great to all have it come to one spot.
Yeah.
Even living in Northampton, you're free to email that, by all means. I think a lot of the comments we receive are from people that just drive through or come through and don't live here.
I would echo the comment about the crosswalk. I was driving back from my sister's one night, and I was surprised suddenly at the last minute to see 2 people in it. And fortunately, once someone is actually in the path of a car, headlights illuminate them. But under the law, for a pedestrian, we're supposed to yield when someone is desiring to cross. And that means that we need to be able, people who are waiting to cross or preparing to cross need to be illuminated. And as they're sort of at the end of the row of parked cars, they're not in the path of your headlights yet. And they're also not illuminated by any street lighting. They're sort of in this dark hidden area. And, you know, it's not quite a safety issue because once they actually step into the path of a car, the headlights illuminate them. But while they're still over to the side, it's a courtesy issue because the law says, you know, a driver's supposed to yield, but you can't yield when you don't see someone yet.
Yeah, that's an artifact, I mean, in this instance, that's an artifact of the pilot test, you know, in a final design, streetlights would be moved and you know, proper illumination would be part of the design.
I think it's worth considering the contrast with the current sort of 1 3/4 lanes. Someone is cautiously walking out into that 3/4 lane that's sort of parking access, sort of travel, but it's not an area that there's this expectation that it's going to be a through lane. So there's sort of a gentle introduction to the traffic flow versus this kind of like, oh, you're in shadow, now you're in the lane. I mean, contrasting view, but I would strongly argue whatever happens with the crosswalks, they need lighting. Not of the crosswalk, but of the crosswalk staging area.
Understood.
Yeah, if we could get one of those like yellow blinky lights,
I would guarantee it, but I think what'll end up there is a raised crosswalk, 2 nicer bump outs, and an RFB, possibly an area of refuge island in the center, so that you're not doing the whole thing, but
be nice.
all remains to be designed, but that's
An
probably.
RFB is, it says that cars are normal and pedestrians are abnormal. Cars have a default, and if you're walking, you have to push a button before you can do what a driver can do automatically. That doesn't sound right.
Well, there is different, I mean, you don't want the light there flashing all the time, but ones that just pick up the pedestrian on a sensor are pretty prone to picking up anything on a sensor and flashing too much, and then they're just kind of noise. So, be a challenge.
Is there any further discussion on item number 4, the Main Street design? Yes.
I was just gonna ask if the comments are gonna be made public or we're gonna review them at another meeting.
That's a good question. We won't review all of them in one Board of Public Works meeting, that's for sure. A summary of them that Bowman will put together, maybe something we could talk about. I'm not sure that they'd be able to be made public record, depending, I'd have to look at that.
I mean, I think there was, maybe from the first meeting, there was like a cool, or maybe it was a different product, there was a cool like data collection of like, this is where people felt. I think I'm thinking of the one behind the Mill Street, they had like a survey and then they produced the data. It was cool.
There'll be more public outreach about the design, so that would be the spot to really see what.
Yes.
Can I make a quick addendum to my comment, just raised thoughts from some of that discussion? I didn't realize that there was a plan to raise the crosswalks, which is, or
that's
a
another-
possibility.
Following the model of what we're seeing on Union Street and modern design and public, you know, infrastructure, that's a likely scenario, but
Okay.
not a guarantee.
Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
I'm glad there's a possibility of that. I know that was a heavily contested thing with the Northampton Main Street redesign where they liked the idea of raised, but there were a lot of planning reasons they didn't think it was gonna be possible. So first of all, just a huge support for raising it. Also to the point raised about conflicts that happen, especially at places like Campus Lane Crosswalk, when you have a separated bike lane on the side. If we are in the position of possibly getting raised crosswalks both across the main road as well as potentially hopefully on an intersection like Campus, seeing elevation of those side crosswalks and bike lanes are something that, of course, in a lot of European road standards are used because they force vehicles to slow down on those turns and see more in those daylighted corners. I would absolutely put any support I can into the possibility of raising those conflict zones to help slow those turning traffic, much as they've commented about Campus Lane now seeing slowing due to the reconfiguration around that intersection. So.
Yeah, like Greg had stated earlier, like we're not even at 25% design. This was more just sort of a start to get public input, and you know, because we didn't want to see what we've seen in other communities where you get to the 75% design or 90% design and people feel like they didn't even know the project was happening. So this was a very public way to sort of kick it off for both, you know, in favor or opposed to that pilot test. It was so everybody knows this is coming, even if it's 4 years out or 5 years out. So that's really where we're at, as a very conceptual design. So.
And I'm very happy to see possible raised crosswalks, bike lane delineation, all these things being discussed this early, because I feel like those usually don't come in until much later stages. So seeing those both in the pilot and in the discussion now is very good, and I'm glad the city is thinking broadly about a wide toolbox for solving those problems.
Do you think that there would be another like pilot program when you're farther along, like a 75-mile set or something, or?
I mean,
It's hard, it's a challenge because it's expensive. There's a lot, there was some not huge expensive, but we were able to, the lineators we used, we borrowed them from Chicopee from their trial event. We had incurred some expense with paying overtime and things like that, because we only have so much built into the budget of the project. But there will be plenty of time to weigh in on.
Does the board have any further discussion on it based on public input? I mean, as I said in the beginning, this was more just an avenue for collection for stuff that didn't get to the email address or through the QR code, but I don't really foresee any groundbreaking discussion on this evening. Like I said, I just wanted to collect it, but if you have any.
One small issue I had before all this work started. So if you're going and you're entering the rotary, going like towards Easthampton Savings Bank, and you wanted to take that right-hand turn, you had that barrel right there.
Yep.
And myself and other cars in front of me would stop. Do you take the right around the barrel, go, between the barrel and the sidewalk? Or do you take a left around the barrel to take your right? And you kind of like, well, which way? I was with my wife and I took the right between the barrel and she goes, I think you should have went left, but I've seen other people slow down. I think that's been since corrected, right?
Yeah, I think so. But once it's constructed, the turns will be adjusted, the angles of the turns and such, and an actual bump out will be there instead of a barrel or delineator or cone, whatever.
Well, that was actually a good discussion.
Yeah, thank you all for coming.
Yeah, we normally, it's
Thank
just
you for
three
having
of
us.
us by ourselves, so.
And we put all
Any
that
of you
out.
with very detailed comments, please go on the website and put those in
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
please,
yeah.
because I just
We'll
jot
get
down
this-
a little bit who spoke, so.
Right. If you want, you particularly, another item on our agenda this evening is, it's just a letter of support, but it is discussion about the Parsons and Ferry intersection. So,
Okay, yeah, I was actually gonna ask what the rest of the agenda was, because I wanted to hear what
Yeah,
else was
the-
going on.
the-
Yeah, I'll stick through some more of
Yeah.
that.
For everyone's information, if you don't have an agenda, item number 5 is we're discussing support letters for 2 projects, one of them being Parsons and Ferry, and one being the Northampton Street along the business corridor.
Oh, maybe I do want to stay.
And then number 6 is we get a director's report on the summary of everything since our last meeting, so.
Okay.
Alright, so if there's no further discussion on number 4, I'll continue to keep it on the agenda till next meeting. We'll see if anything else comes in. Other than that, I'll move on to number 5, support letters for Northampton and Ferry Street grant funding applications. What you see before you is the draft that Greg gave us last meeting. I made some edits. I understand that Leah also provided some edits, which I'll look at now, or comments, I should say.
Oh, you have my little handwritten comments printed out.
Then it would just be easier than trying to.
Like I said, I didn't want to do this outside of the meeting, so I just had her provide these. I also, just so you can see what I changed.
She has it on hers, because she has a copy of yours.
Okay,
Yeah, I
but,
have a,
oh, you do have the
I
mark,
do.
Yeah, like
with
the
track,
markup.
with track changes,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Like I said, they were small, mostly, couple grammatical things, but I don't know if you got a chance to review what was sent out. I mean, if you had any, did it address any of your concerns, or?
let's start with
Yeah.
the Ferry Street one.
Ferry Street.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, mostly my changes were grammatical too. I did appreciate the change about coordinating with private investment. I feel like that's really important to make clear since no private money is actually going to be used to fund the project. And can I see my notes
Oh,
on that?
yeah, it should be in the agenda.
No, because I figured she had hers,
Okay.
so I just gave you and Steve what the others didn't
This
have.
is-
It's this one, I guess. Yeah, my only question about this one was, what is the project actually? Is it a design project or is it it says shovel ready, is it a
Construction.
It's construction, okay.
So
Okay.
when we apply for a grant, the grant application can be made stronger depending on the agency you're applying to and the work happening around it.
Uh-huh.
So with this, the Housing Works program, because affordable housing could potentially be built,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 11 Ferry Street would be the address.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to make a very strong application, coupling our needed investment with the investment being made by the private sector.
Mhm.
And bring money to Easthampton and take some of the burden off of taxpayers, ratepayers, and make water sewer roadway improvements. So
Right.
if we can, the stronger we can make a grant application by, working in coordination with a property owner,
Absolutely.
it's just
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't
a
miss.
huge opportunity.
Yeah. Shovel ready is a pretty understood term of.
Yeah, I just
Yeah,
wanted to confirm
That
because,
we're just looking for the money either way, that it's,
so the design is done.
Yes,
Okay. Cool, that was my only question on Ferry Street.
okay.
it's been an ongoing discussion topic for the board over the last couple of years
Okay.
with the Parsons and Ferry Street intersection.
Okay.
And, getting the alignment better from Parsons looking at Ferry Street.
Right.
So if we can pull this all together and get that wall replaced, fix the intersection with alignment, it's a home run.
Mm-hmm. And does this address, I know this, I'm new, so I missed all of that previous discussion over the last couple of years, but does this address the having to cross Ferry Street, go over and then come back when coming out of the New City neighborhood?
At Emerald Place,
Yes.
yeah, partially. We have
Okay.
another grant funded effort moving along Emerald Place with the MVP program, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program.
Okay, awesome.
So it's actually going back and forth in some emails right now, is when we submit this application to the Housing Works program, where do we want our limit to be, here or here? And the MVP takes it this part, or the Housing Works takes this part, so
Right.
we're working through that right now.
Okay,
But yes, that is intended to be addressed
okay,
between one
Excellent.
of the two.
right. And that dam is privately owned, right?
It's-
Yeah, so that's an additional complexity.
Well, I thought half,
Well, it's about 50-50.
Okay,
yeah.
So, yeah, it's
not-
it's complicated, but
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's aged infrastructure that's partially city, partially private.
Okay. All right, that was my only question on that one.
Okay, and then on the Mass Works one for,
For Northampton Street.
yeah,
So
this is about the leveraging, so
yeah,
I changed that similarly to coordinate.
yes,
And this one is maybe it would be helpful not to the corridors, falls within the state designated environmental justice community.
yeah,
I don't know if that's part of that may be part of the larger application,
Mhm.
but I don't know if that's the board's
Yeah, that's-
purview to,
That might, I mean, I don't know if it would matter or be relevant in our letter, just something I noticed and wanted to ask about.
did you see that, Liz? Is that something that's addressed in the larger application?
Yes.
Is this roadway improvement from the stoplight at the bottom of the river up to like the co-op?
So this is not for a roadway improvement.
Oh,
There's a separate project with MassDOT to address that. That's kind of ongoing, I believe. This is actually to replace water and sewer infrastructure
Mhm.
in that area before the roadway improvements are completed.
Yeah.
Or begin, really.
Yeah, so just for a little backstory on it, there is a larger MassDOT program that's going to address that. Obviously, we have an aged sewer and undersized water main under that portion of roadway, which will need to be addressed before the MassDOT project overlays it.
Makes sense.
Either way, we'll have to address that, and we're applying for a grant to assist with that, so it's not entirely a rate paid burden. So this is just a letter of support that the BPW is going to be adding to the grant application that the city is making, saying that the board is in favor of this application.
It's just another opportunity to couple with the private investment to make a strong grant application.
Yeah.
This one's huge because it takes the burden of paying for, I think it's $3.5 million
Yeah, it's
off of our water and sewer ratepayers and enterprise funds, so. And I think it's a really strong application, really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, no, it is, it sort of fits every guideline that the grant has,
Checks
so.
a lot of boxes, they both do.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm worried about is managing $8.5 million worth of grant projects. Figure that out, we're not doing
That is a problem I will happily.
Be a good one. But to speak to the environmental justice part, I don't have an exact answer for that. I think it's a good question. However, I do have, lean on Jeff a lot with these grant applications, and if he had thought that needed to get mentioned in here, or it would help us check another box, I'm sure he would have put it in there.
Okay.
Maybe you put that in there and they might look at it like, oh, this should go to this X, Y, or Z grant program and not be as strong for MassWorks. So MassWorks, I think, focuses a little bit more on commercial and industrial kind of larger projects and less on environmental justice sort of stuff, if that makes any sense.
Sounds good. In that case, I have no edits to the letters as prepared.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the input, that's actually very helpful, and angle on the board, I appreciate that, so keep it coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alright, Steve, did you have any issues with the revised?
I did not.
Okay. And,
Sign the ones you printed.
I don't think I need to motion this at all, right, it's just a board.
I put it on there just in case if you wanted to.
Okay, then just to dot our i's and cross our t's, I will make a motion to have the board sign the letter as prepared and revised.
Second?
Okay, Thomas Salisbury,
Yes.
Steve Whitman,
Yes.
Leah Strode,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
Alright, we'll sign that while we move, I guess I should, in theory, is there any public input on the board's preparation of those letters? Okay, thank you very much for your support.
Going great.
It's tangential, but I would just mention that Ferry Street Rotary is very complicated with the trail crossing because, in theory, on a bicycle, you're supposed to yield to cars. But you can't tell if a car in the rotary is coming your way or not because cars that are continuing and cars that are turning have exactly the same behavior. There's no difference in their body language. They don't slow the way they would at a conventional intersection. And I know there was something on Facebook that blew up a week or two ago where people were complaining about bicycles don't stop at the stop sign, but that's only half the problem. I mean, I don't think anyone is really recognizing that legally the road has the right of way over the trail there if you're on a bike. And I don't think that proximity was well thought through. And I just, Ferry Street is not great to bike on, I will say that, but it's even worse to try to cross it on a bike, given that rotary and the limited sight line down towards the river. I know it's kind of a fact set in concrete now, but just that is an area of conflict and widespread misunderstanding.
Well, we are taking that stockade fencing down along both sides of the trail right there. I think may help with cars approaching, being able to see bikes.
Well, the thing is that, cars approaching aren't actually supposed to be yielding to bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a social custom, but it's not the law. If we really wanted cars to yield to bikes, we should make it a four-way stop with stop signs on the road, but obviously we're not gonna do that, especially after building a rotary.
Alright, well, thank you for your input. There's no further discussion on item number 5. I will move on to item number 6, Director's Report.
So just have some construction schedule updates for you guys. Ludlow subcontractor painted temporary lines on Union Street last week on the base pavement. Our highway division actually worked overnight Monday to paint temporary crosswalks throughout the Union Street corridor. There's like 14, there's quite a few once you count the side streets and ones we painted on the actual street itself. They're gonna continue sidewalk work this week on the west side of Union Street from Union Court to Railroad. They're moving right along. They're just about down the railroad, looks like, when I went through this afternoon. And what they're gonna do is keep one side passable until the other side is fixed. So they'll finish the west side, that'll be new ADA compliant sidewalk. Well, not quite, when the road's up, it'll be ADA compliant, but it'll be new concrete sidewalk underneath it. And then they'll start on the opposite side of the street, so.
That's good,
Yeah.
good approach.
Yeah. The 141 paving project's still on schedule for this summer. It's still on for July. Michelle, did I give you those pictures or did I not?
No.
Okay, I'll give them to you after. Just quick sketch designs of what the RFP is gonna look like at Bad Day Street. It must be sitting on my desk.
Want me to grab
Let me
them?
grab them.
Yeah.
So we submitted that to Boston today, to MassDOT for their approval on the for that new crossing RFP at Bad Day. So that'll be a nice upgrade if we can get it to come through. The parking lot, the COA, we finalized a contract with Mass West for that effort. Work there should be starting the first week of June, but that's very subject to change at this point.
That's right.
So this was just for you all to see it. Pretty straightforward. Just to finish on the COA, they're hoping that once they can get started, they're to be in and out of there in 5 days if the weather cooperates. And I think I had a little note on here about Main Street, but we covered that earlier, is that we removed everything, and left everything north of campus.
Thank you and your team for all the effort. Any questions or discussion on anything Greg addressed?
Another busy summer of construction.
We need it. It's deferred and I'm happy to see it happens.
I know the planning and grading took a long time, but it's been wonderful to see the pace since the paving and starting to rework
yeah.
those sides. They've
Yeah.
really gotten through that fast.
Yeah, they're moving right along.
If there's no further discussion, I will make a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
Second.
Thomas Mulsberry, Steve Whitwood,
Yes.
Nina Strode,
Yes.
all in favor, motion carries.
All right.
And our next meeting, June 5th.
Sounds good.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.